This is the first map in the game. It is actually a tutorial on how to build buildings and how the power generation works. Eventually the player runs out of fuel and the robots win. I wanted to have a lot of robots in this game. The latter maps start with a few thousand. The game engine doesn't support this many units running smoothly, so I had to write the physics code myself. All the robots on the map are active and act individually, but they do form aggro groups. The more robots, the more fun. The tanks automatically aim at the most favorable target. The laser hits the closest robot. The anti-shield hits a shielded unit if available. The slow does a sweep. The fire DPS hits the highest hit point unit. The multi-shot hits the largest cluster. There are hero units that are user controllable. The engineering truck summons melee for aggro. The artillery tank fires artillery shells. The cannonball tank fires a cannonball, kinda like shotgunning zombies. There are 4 power plants in this game: geothermal, ethanol that needs corn, nuclear that needs energy crystals, and the backup generator that uses biomass. Balancing power demands is one of the main mechanics of the game. Energy is used to recharge vehicles for offense, power the towers for defense, build the economy, in this case a harvester, and mine for upgrade material. Everything requires power. Make sure not to run out or the lights go out. Building loses their shields, it gets disabled, and the economy stalls. While the player tries to push the robots off the map, the robots push back. In the later maps, the robots gain units that bypass towers or disables them, forcing the player to fight to defend their base. This causes a tug-of-war of the map that goes back and forth. The player gradually acquires more territory in the map to gain resources for upgrades until the player gains enough upgrades to take on the main base to win the game. The vehicle batteries in this game gets upgraded with lithium from a mine, whereas the weapons get upgraded using fruit from trees. The trees require experience in the form of books, which is obtained from fights by the engineering truck and also from the tree of knowledge. When the tree has sufficient books, potash from the mine is used to upgrade the tree. Everything the player needs is out there in the map, but the map is entirely covered by robots. Player cannot stay near the main base, they must get out there and expand. The player starts by getting some free biomass from the backup generator, then the player gets a power plant pads and builds an ethanol plant, builds a tower to defend it, then gets a geothermal spring to build a geothermal power plant, gains access to a field to start harvesting, gets a tree area, obtains seeds and starts to plant trees, builds some mines, attack the robots to get access to more fields, upgrade trees for better weapons, upgrade the vehicle batteries, and can finally take on some bases. But this is just the opening to make sure the player has an economy going. Now the player goes into the middle, and the fight truly begins. The Quick Select HUD. Harvester under attack, it is visible with a robot icon. When a tank is under attack, there's also a robot icon. Harvester not harvesting, it has a stop sign, so move it to a field. The tree needs water, there's a water drop and it can be watered. The power plant needs fuel, there's a silo icon, red, yellow, or green, so call for a delivery. The game has less micromanagement in fights, but more actionable items to do. The Quick Select HUD makes it easy to see the status of units and select them. And finally, tank out of power, there's an empty battery icon. The minimap is just a zoomed out camera. You can see all the action from far away, and the game is fully playable in this state. The player can select a unit and move it if they want. Player units do not get destroyed. They just have empty batteries and lose aggro. The tow truck can be called to tow them back to the recharge port. I did not want the players to have to save and load when making mistakes, so having units be recoverable is a much better option. Player buildings also do not get destroyed. They just get disabled. They can be shocked back to life with the ambulance. Nearly every scenario in the game is recoverable if the player has enough fuel for the power generators. When the robots retake an area, they can rebuild their buildings quickly. the player cannot revive their buildings until the robot buildings are destroyed. This forces the player to fight the robots to regain ground. Typically in RTSs in mid-game, the player waits until they have enough resources to base siege the AI. I learned that adding in large defensive battles where the player has to react and fight is fun. It makes the mid-game more interesting. The player can select the difficulty, which is adjusted on the fly. In the easier difficulty, the player gets more energy generation and battery capacity. If the player runs out of resources, there is the giving tree. It provides a large amount of resources when requested, with the only downside that the player gets told at the end how many times they used it. The latter maps run several hours, and I do not want the player to have to restart a map if they don't want to when they run out of resources. As the player plants trees, the ground and props changes color from brown to green. And of course, just like the rest of the game, the props are glow in the dark. The first few maps in this game start at around 13 minutes. The player generally builds a few units, gets a few upgrades, and takes on the robot bases. Then the maps get larger and last over an hour, as the robots get more interesting attack patterns. The later maps, the robots attack back in strength, and the game becomes a tug-of-war that can last a few hours. The total game length on hard, which is how the developer plays the game, is a bit over 25 hours. Most robots have hit point indicators as beating hearts that go from green to red, sparkle, and then explode. My design philosophy is for everything in this game to be as visual as possible, and it became obvious that having hit point bars overlaid on top of robots would clutter the screen too much. Thanks for watching. Visit my Steam page, there is a 5-map downloadable demo. Like and subscribe to the channel. I have a full making of devlog video series if you're interested.